is a beautiful thing. It grows to the quiver of a fife that sings. I can take it with the wave of my hand and place it upon my music stand. Such a beautiful thing. Such a beautiful thing.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. Special acknowledgement now of those of you who are watching this as the recorded video. We post those videos up on 3 different platforms. They're on YouTube, they're on Rumble, and they are on BitChute. And please subscribe to whatever channel you are watching these on, and hit the like button or the like icon, whatever it is. The more likes the videos get, the more that platform will share them, put them in the news feeds of the people. And also leave a comment. Love to read your little comments, just a little share of some thoughts you had about the video, and I'll try to acknowledge those and answer those. So we're well into the year now, and my perception, my thoughts, is that it's going to be a particularly challenging year. And that's probably not really true. All years have their challenges. All years are challenging. The current year always seems more challenging for some reason. The challenges seem more intense because it's current. And challenges that you currently face are always going to seem stronger or bigger than challenges you faced and got through in the past. I remember, I must have gotten that teaching in some S seminar some time ago, but it's true. All I can do is remember the past, can't really experience it. It's really an hallucination anyway. Who knows what really happened in the past? And so what's happening now, of course, is happening now, and you feel it now. And I can still acknowledge that it seems like it's going to be a challenging year. For one, I mean, the big thing is we are moving the CMC office, and I'm in the process of packing and getting everything hooked up and all the internet connectivity and, all the things that have to go along with moving. And we're moving into a new, larger facility. That is really in a central location, so we're really happy about that, and we are going to manifest a new hybrid Sunday gathering. So that's also going to be a particular challenge. It's a technology challenge. By hybrid, we mean it'll be a Zoom Sunday gathering like this is, but it will also have in-person people there too, and the challenge is to create an experience so that the people there in person and the people on Zoom really feel connected and really feel like they're participating in the same gathering at the same time. The word hybrid means a thing made by connecting 2 different elements, a mixture, so it will be a mixture. And the challenge is, again, making it a mixture where both parts feel equal. So that's coming up, and working on that. So a lot of things are challenging. So what I realize, or the guidance I've gotten, is that my efficiency and my effectiveness, which is already pretty good, but it has to ramp up. I think I talked about this a little last week. So I have been setting New Year's goals and New Year's resolutions. And I've gotten a lot of guidance about that. I don't need to get into that in any great detail. I'm limiting them this year because I really want to focus on what is the most important things. So I'm going to limit them to 8. I've currently got 7 goals and resolutions, and so I'm open to getting one more. But if I don't get that one more soon, I'm fine with just having 7. But I have gotten the guidance that I shouldn't be more than 8. And I'm also, really connected to the Holy Spirit, and really making sure that the goals and resolutions that I have are the ones that are given to me by the Holy Spirit. I want those plans. Course in Miracles says a healed mind carries out the plans which it receives through listening to wisdom that is not its own. So that wisdom that is not my own, that's the wisdom of the Holy Spirit. And I have been listening. I really have been listening. And a lot of things have come into my mind. Oh, that's a good goal. But if I don't really get that connection that that's the goal that the Holy Spirit wants me to set, I don't put it down. And I realize over the years I've added a lot of well meaning, good sounding goals, but they probably weren't really given to me by the Holy Spirit. So I want to really limit that to the ones that the Holy Spirit gives me. And I got the guidance that it can't be any more than 8. And I've also got the guidance that I need to read them with thoughtful, conscious awareness every single day when I fill out my journal. Maybe even read them a couple times a day and just really keep them in mind. So it's been going on. It's been going good. I've been feeling the results of that already. I think I've been more efficient and I've been more effective already, but I have to keep it up. Um, the course teaches that this is all great, but the ego is working to derail our plans, and that the ego is not actually all that threatened when we come up with spirit guided plans or spirit guided practices, because the ego knows how to subvert these plans. And the ego is pretty confident in its ability to subvert the plans. So the ego knows how to make the accomplishment of what's on our list spirit guided, but the ego knows how to make them very difficult and ultimately undoable. The Course says the ego, and this was in the reading that Reverend Paula read, it says the ego can accept the idea that return is necessary because it can so easily make the idea seem so difficult. See, the ego is fine about us having these ideas of what we want to accomplish, how we want to return to our divine Christed nature. Ego's not really threatened by that because the ego knows how to make that seem so difficult, and the ego knows how to derail that. So my success with my goals is going to be in realizing that the Holy Spirit guided goals that I accept depend upon my vigilance against the ego's sabotage uh, techniques. So I think, something to just take in. We all need to be vigilant against the ego's sabotage. Sabotage is an interesting word. It's a French word, or it comes from a French word. And it actually means to throw a shoe, a wooden shoe, a clog, into machinery. A shoe is sabot, or maybe sabot. I think it's sabot, S-A-B-O-T, but you don't pronounce the T. Those of you who know French better can tell me. It's a clog. So sabot, and it comes from the 1800s, I believe, is the correct time frame, which is sort of in the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, when the workers were, complaining about the really poor working conditions and unsafe working conditions. And so the workers would throw their sabot, their wooden clog, into the machinery, and it would damage the machinery, and it would bring the machinery to a standstill. And so that act of throwing the shoe brought us the word sabotage. At least that's the story. I found a great picture of somebody throwing a shoe. I thought I'd bring that up. Okay, throwing a shoe. He looks kind of French too, doesn't he? Not a wooden clog. I couldn't find that picture, but throwing a shoe into the machinery of our best laid plans. That's what the ego does. And the ego is really good at that. Really good at that. It has just about that same energy and countenance too when it does it. So that's what we need to watch out for. We need to watch out for the shoes that are being thrown into our best laid plans by our ego. Uh, I remember when I first heard about the origin of the word sabotage, and I thought it was really wonderful. And maybe some of you know this, but it was in the movie Star Trek Six, The Undiscovered Country. That's a 1991 movie. I think that was the last movie that still had the entire original crew, you know, Kirk and Spock and Bones and Uhura and Chekhov. And there was a new character in the crew. It was a Vulcan. It was Lieutenant Valaris. It was a woman. So this Vulcan woman talks to Uhura and Chekhov at one point when they got some information from Starfleet headquarters that they didn't like, and she tells them about sabotage and the throwing of the shoe, and tells them where it came from. It came from the French, and I remember hearing that back in 1991 when I saw the Star Trek movie, The Undiscovered Country, and that was when I learned of the origin of the word sabotage, which comes from sabot, a shoe, a wooden clog thrown into the machinery of things to bring progress to a standstill. You know, throwing a shoe also in many cultures is a form of protest. Perhaps you remember our president, George W. Bush, that's George Jr., he had shoes thrown at him by an Iraqi TV journalist in 2008. He was there with the prime minister of Iraq, or is it the president of Iraq? He was in the royal palace at Baghdad, and an Iraqi TV journalist threw both of his shoes at President Bush. Both missed President Bush. One of them did hit the American flag, I believe, that was in back of President Bush. Um, and as this journalist threw these shoes, he shouted something in Iraqi, I guess, but or whatever their language is called. But the translation was, "This is a farewell kiss from the Iraqi people, you dog." So that was what was shouted at. I remember watching that. I just happened to be watching that live too for some reason. Well, I like to watch the presidents do live addresses, and I remember it was very startling. To nobody quite knew what was going on, but throwing a shoe is considered an act of deep disrespect in a lot of cultures, but certainly in that culture. And I did a little research, and so the journalist that threw the shoes, though he was kind of made into a populist folk hero, he did actually get convicted of a crime. I think he was convicted of 3 years in jail, but he did get out after 9 months because of good behavior and because he had no prior arrests. So that's the rest of the story about the Iraqi uh, TV journalist who threw his shoes at President Bush. And the ego is very good at throwing shoes into the inner workings of our best laid plans. The ego is very good at sabotaging our plans. And unlike the Iraqi TV journalist, the ego doesn't miss very often. Well, until now, I am declaring that I'm going to be very, very alert to flying shoes. We all need to be alert to flying shoes. We all need to let go of the ego's sabotage. And I am going to be aware of that because, as I said, got a challenging year. I got a lot to accomplish, and I'm going to be vigilant and focused. You know, we're in the early part of the year. Obviously, today's the 11th day of the year, so we're doing all the early lessons. And the early lessons in the workbook talk about undoing um, and unlearning. So the introduction to the workbook tells us this if we didn't like figure it out just from doing the lessons. So the first part is undoing the current way that we see things. And in the introduction of the workbook, it says the workbook is divided into two sections. The first dealing with the undoing of what you see now. So I have noticed that in practice, there's sometimes a lot of resistance to doing these early lessons. I had a lot of resistance to doing these early lessons. I didn't have a lot of resistance to doing them the first or maybe even the second time I did them, but I think it was like the third time I was doing the work. I didn't want to do these early lessons. I feel I'd done it. I had done my undoing. There was no reason to go through these early lessons. Um, and so I thought that I would just jump into the lessons. When we got to about lesson number 51, when we got to the first review, then I was just going to jump in. And you know what happened? By the time we got to the first year review, I'd kind of gotten out of the habit of doing the lessons. And I don't think I did real well that year. It was hit and miss, didn't do the lessons really well. It was probably my worst year of doing the lessons, all because I thought I knew better and that I didn't need these early undoing lessons, and my ego threw that shoe into my best laid plans, and that shoe sabotaged my ability to do the lessons that year. And I see that going on with people that I do lessons with, because I do lessons with my healing team group every morning. I think that there's 14 of us now that do the lessons together. And I noticed that there's all kinds of sabotage going on. I mean, just sabotage in simple things. Oh, can't find the book. Oh, can't find the page. Oh, my dog is barking. Oh, my whatever. Oh, I can't unmute. I can't mute. And I just don't really like the way this is worded. I think I'll change it a little bit. This doesn't make sense to me. I think it would really work better for me if I said it a different way. There's all kinds of interesting little shoes that the ego is throwing in there. So I want to remind people what it says in the introduction to the workbook. It says some of the ideas you will find hard to believe, and others will seem quite startling. It does not matter. You are merely asked to apply them to what you see. You are not asked to judge them, nor even believe them. You are asked only to use them. So that's all we have to do with the early lessons. And think about what your ego may be doing. What shoes might your ego be throwing in there to your best laid plans? And remember that you're not here to judge the lessons, and you're not here to judge Jesus, who apparently scribed the lessons. There's the old expression called gild the lily. Gild is when you put little bits of gold, usually on the borders of things, the furniture, to make the furniture more brilliant, more valuable. It's called you gild the desk, you gild the chair, you gild the table, you put a little bit of gold on it. But then there's the expression of you don't need to gild the lily, which means that you don't need to put gold around the lily. The lily is already perfectly beautiful just the way it is. And what you need to do is just take it in and absorb the beauty. So we don't need to gild the lily with the course lessons. It doesn't need our embellishment. And I think a lot of that is just the ego throwing a shoe into our best laid plans. We just need to practice them. We don't have to believe them. We don't have to agree with them. We don't have to like them. We're not supposed to be judging them. We're just supposed to be doing them. And be vigilant in the beginning of the year for the ways your ego is sabotaging, throwing a shoe. What obstacles also are you putting in the way of you doing the lessons? Course in Miracles has a really interesting thing to say about this. It says, as peace extends from deep inside yourselves, it will encounter many obstacles. Some of them you will try to impose. Others will seem to arise from elsewhere, from your brothers and from various aspects of the outside world. So those obstacles to lesson practice, those obstacles to you accomplishing your goals, yeah, you may understand that some of them are coming from you, but then you'll think that, well, some I just couldn't help it. This, my car broke down. I just couldn't help it. Um, but I think what A Course in Miracles is saying that it only seems like that's coming from the outside world. There is no outside world. That's just something that you're manifesting, uh, that you're going to judge as harder to overcome. That's a tougher shoe. That's maybe a bigger size. That must be a size 12 wooden clog that the ego threw in there. I couldn't help it. My husband did whatever. Um, Practicing, you got to be aware of that. You got to be vigilant of all those things. I mean, sometimes it overwhelms us, but how often is it that we just give that thing permission to overwhelm us? Maybe it doesn't really have to overwhelm us. If we didn't give it permission to, it wouldn't overwhelm us. So, obstacles, shoes that are being thrown at us from various aspects of the outside world, it's still us. It's still us sabotaging. It's still a form of self sabotage. Over the years, I have seen how important these early lessons are. Even if you've been through the course many, many times, it's important to be in a continual process of undoing. I welcome the early lessons now. I don't want to stay on whatever plateau I may feel I have gotten myself up to at the end of the year. I want to progress. I want to go further. I'm still here. I still feel like I'm in a physical world. I still wake up in a body every day, a wonderful body, but a body every day. And while I am here and while I am in that body, I want to keep progressing. And that means I got to keep undoing. So I welcome the early lessons. There is no healing that will not involve an undoing of some kind, an undoing of something that has been falsely learned. So it's an unlearning. And the Course says, this is in the manual, it is the function of God's teachers to bring true learning to the world. Properly speaking, it is unlearning that they bring, for that is true learning in the world. So we have to unlearn. And every year, if you do the lessons in the yearly sequence, you go through this process of undoing. You go through this process of unlearning. And it is important. And I realize now how silly it was for me 30 whatever years ago to think that that one year that I could skip the first 50 lessons and just jump in at 51 and that was somehow going to be a good idea. It wasn't a good idea. It didn't work. So one of the other things I think we have to undo and unlearn is that being a miracle healer, being a miracle teacher, being a miracle worker, being a teacher of God, it's somebody who works with A Course in Miracles, that it's hard, that it's difficult. A lot of people play that one out. You hear that one a lot of times. It is so hard, so confusing. I don't understand. Nobody agrees with me, yada, yada. I don't know how I can live in the world with these ideas. It's just, those are just shoes that the ego is throwing in to your mind, into your best laid plans. It can't be hard. It's natural. It's our natural state. It's the most natural thing in the world to be a miracle worker. The Course says it cannot be hard. It cannot be that it is hard to do the task Christ appointed you to do, for it is He who does it. It's not hard. Not hard to practice the Course in Miracles. Not hard to do the workbook lessons. It's not hard to be a healer. It's not hard to be the Christ. It's our natural state. Watch out for those ideas. Those are the shoes. Watch them. Don't let them in. Don't let the ego sabotage your practice with, this is hard, this is difficult. Our perfection, our Christed nature is who we are. We never lose it. Our perfection is knowable and always readily accessible. Another thing that Reverend Paula read in that first paragraph, it says, "It is surely clear, however, that the perfect need nothing and cannot experience perfection as a difficult accomplishment, because that is what they are. If we really are connected to our perfection, that we understand that it can't be difficult to realize that. That's who we are. That's natural. That's real nature. Not the thing that we see out there in the world, which is usually just a manifestation of the ego. Being perfect, being the Christ, being a healer, being a teacher of God, being a representative of the divine. That's what's natural. That's what's easy. The idea of it being hard or difficult, that's a sabot. That's an ego shoe. That's sabotage. Don't let it happen. We're addicted to this insane habit of thinking that we are flawed humans, existing in a state of great want and great need. And we're addicted to thinking that perfection is a difficult accomplishment. But it isn't. The idea of this being hard and difficult, we're letting go of it. I'm letting go of it this year, more than I've let go of it other years. It looks difficult, this move that I've got to accomplish. It looks difficult, this manifesting of the hybrid Sunday gathering. But it can't be hard to do what Christ would have me do, because it's going to be the Christ in me that does it. So I'm going to gather the strength of that. And I'm going to gather the strength of doing the lessons every day with my mighty companions. And that includes the mighty companions that are on that healing team call, but it also includes all the mighty companions all over the world that are doing these workbook lessons along with me. And I'm going to engage and encourage people to engage and do the workbook lessons as they are written. They don't need our changes. They're not a lily that needs to be gilded. They are beautiful and perfect just the way they are. We can affirm altogether that it actually is not hard. It's not hard to be the Christ. It is who we actually are. We just need to watch out for those flying shoes of the ego. That's my talk for today. Thank you very much.
A flower is a beautiful thing. It grows to the quiver of a fife that sings. I can take it with the wave of my hand and place it upon my music stand. Such a beautiful thing. Such a beautiful thing. The world is a marvelous show.